Huh.
Hey guys, it's Dane at Jonah Guitars, and I got a brand new build series I'm going to start uploading. It's about this guy right here, the GECKO, and all of the whole process of building will be covered. It's going to be a very complete series. So I hope you join me, and we'll see you there. Hey guys. Last time we were videoing, I'm pretty sure the last thing that I did was I was working on trimming the veneer down to the headstock, and that's done, trimmed, sanded to 180, I believe, and the edges and all that, because I had to get a little rougher down to 100 to kind of get things done nicely. So 180, still got to take it to 220. I thought I'd get done drilling all the holes in the peg head before before I finish sanded, because it just seemed to make more sense to get all the big stuff done before I got all the final sanding. So I ordered a set of 3 of these. These are metric step drills. I was just trying to see if there was another one. Yeah. Another one laying here. There's 3, and the other one is actually even bigger around than that. And believe it or not, they were like 14 or 15 bucks on Amazon. Got here in about 2 days, 3 days maybe. So I got tuners that are metric, right? So I need 10 millimeter hole. Well, I thought I would go ahead and do a stepped hole. And I don't typically do a stepped hole. I should have actually brought all my stuff over here so I don't have to keep turning around. But and the reason why I don't normally do it is because if you look at the depth of the tuner with the I'm going to turn it around in case the light's better from that direction. If you look at the depth of the tuner to the depth of the headstock there, there's maybe 3/16 of material left, so there's going to be a very, very shallow deep step from the 10 millimeter direction. Anyway, 10 millimeters, because of where the step is at, I'm going to have to drill farther in. But the step drill enables you to hit your smaller hole with the smaller hole in the step, and then it just enlarges and automatically centers itself as you go, which is a really nice feature. Now the downside is that this measured out to be somewhere like 7. The bushing side of things measured out to be like 7 3/4 millimeter. Which happens to be pretty much 5/16. So I do have a standard step. So I'm drilling the face of the pig head now with the standard step, and I've got it taped off like I have that taped off. I had that taped off at 10. I have the 5/16 step taped off on the standard. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, once that's done, I have to come back in from the other side. I just dropped the bit. Well, it was sharp. That was one other thing I was going to mention, though. For $14 for a set of 3 metric step bits, I got a feeling longevity isn't going to be anything special, especially if I keep dropping them. The counterbore, or the 10 millimeter part of the step, is going to have to go deeper into the headstock. So that is going to be, I didn't mic it. I've got several, they're standard, but they're like odd fractions in between. I'd have to look at it. What the heck? I'll look at it. Got it right here if I can actually read it. The light. 25/64 and that's just a fuzz smaller than that 10 millimeter. And so I'll have to set up a stop on the drill press so I don't over drill, because once there's a hole like this going through, these things just want to grab for all they're worth and just yank the thing. So I really have to push down hard to keep it from just sucking it right all the way through and leave me a hole without a step. So that's what's going to happen. I'm just right now I'm just going to finish drilling the face of the peg head with the 5/16 bit. Then I'll set up for the other. And I'm not sure how much of this I'll capture on video. You can visualize me drilling a hole, I'm sure. All right. And I'll do a few of these with the video running. Okay, there's with the top side of things right there. And the nice thing about those step bits is that they self-center themselves really well. If you've done much of this sort of thing, you know how easy it is. You put a nice sharp, just a regular nice sharp twist bit, back up here, into it'll just drill right next to your existing hole and just offset your hole, unless you like preset it and clamp the board down and then bring it in that way. But if you're trying to enlarge a hole, it's hard to tell where center's at. If for instance, if you're just eyeball and center on top of an existing hole, it's pretty tough to tell exactly where you're at. So the step drill is very handy for that. Alright, we'll do a few of these. So what I've done is set the stop on the drill press right there, and that works out. The point is closer, of course, but it's in the center of the hole, so these outside wings are a little more than 3/16 off, because the end of that hole's I'm going to have a slight bevel to it. The tuner doesn't actually bottom out in that. The tuner pops all the way up in the hole, and there's a little bit of gap between the top edge of that tuner and the where it would bottom out in the hole. So you don't want it to be so close that it's hitting that and possibly holding you off when you go to snug it up and run the screw in the back. So here we go. 1 down, 8 to go. And sort of preset things. You can feel the bits not hitting the edges or pushing you around at all. But it's very, very hard to hold that there. If I had a good way to clamp this down, I would clamp every one of them. What a little extra time it would take to do that to ensure it being perfect. Like I mentioned before, if you're not holding this down really tight, that bit will actually grab this thing and just suck it right up the bit, push it right out the front of your veneer pig face and really screw things up for you. So you really want to hold that thing down. centered. That's good. Felt like it wiggled a little bit. Okay, I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to clamp that down. I really don't like freehanding these. It's giving me the willies. So if I can figure out a clamp system, I will. The other thing I got ordered in was, well, it just looks like the camera in black. What it is a big sheet of black plastic, 60 thousandths thick. Okay, and that's for my control cavity plates on the back of the GECKO. And you may remember in another video I said I was going to use brass, and I shouldn't even address that in this video because it may be independent of the GECKO build. I don't know. I decided to go ahead and use plastic for the covers on the back of the GECKO. I couldn't find brass that I liked the color of. It was way too yellow. Looked like one of these bits, and I did order some. Well, it looked like this, and the bar stock. I don't know. I guess the color changes some because the bar stock 360C doesn't look the same as this. I haven't gotten that piece in yet, but I've used it in the past. I know I've actually built some alembic style bridges. I've actually buffed out some of their stop pieces and things like that. I did a base rehab. I had to do a little work on some of those, and they're not the same color brass, and I'm hoping that the bar stock that I'm getting for my string retainer on the back of this is not that yellow looking. I ordered some knobs for this already, but when I got them, they were all flat on top. I knew they were flat when I ordered them. I don't know what I was thinking. But these are domed. I may still, the last Nighthawk style guitar that I built, I actually got ebony knobs for that, and I liked it a lot with the natural wood look. And I may get those for this build as well. But the dome helps a lot. It just seemed like with the contours on the body that the flat top knob just looked really square for everything else that was going on with that. So it's only an aesthetic decision. It had nothing to do with function whatsoever. And oh, okay. Forgot about those. I got black strap locks. I like the Schaller. These say Grover. They're Grover Schaller. It's the same style as as what used to be called Schaller. Over the Dunlop. The Dunlops, to me, unless you recess the button into the body, they just sit too far off the instrument. It's like you've got this big lever, fulcrum, a pivot point that'll loosen the screw up. But everything, all the hardware on this guitar is black, so I ordered some black ones. I've got chrome ones in stock. Some black control cavity screws. Yeah, you can almost see them in there. I'll go wide again. Nope, that's not wide. And then whip tips. So let's see, the knobs didn't come from StewMac, but the screws and the Grover locks and the whip tips came from Mac, and the plastic came from Mac. I know half of you guys are going to shoot me, the other half are going to go, oh, right on. But I bought the StewMacs, $40 for free shipping. Seems like an oxymoron, but this is my second trip, so I'm, 15, they're pushing $30. It wouldn't have been quite that high. 12, what is that? $25. $25 worth of shipping probably that I've already saved. So we'll let that ride. We're still going to see how that works out. So we're see, I set up on the pig head, and I clamped one of them down, and it drilled fine. But getting the clamp lined up and clamped down, and then adjusting it, and it it was too much fiddle farting around there. So I just freehanded the last 3. It was fine. They all look really pretty well centered. Yeah, so we're good there. Now we're going to move on back to the body, and I ordered a couple of these on mini switches. Alright folks, so I decided to run these pickups in series parallel rather than just doing a coil split. Main reason for that is you get a single coil sound, or close to single coil sound, but you don't get the hum. So even whether a humbucker is in series or parallel, it's still humbucking. So I've decided that those are going to go right there, so I can access the knobs without any interference from that. I'm going to do a well like I did on the volume and tone pot and selector switch, and I'm going to accomplish that by grinding. You saw how I did the other ones, but I don't have, these holes are going to be too small in order to do anything similar to that. But I do want to recess them into the body. I'm going to grind this bit. This is a 3/4 butterfly bit. I'm going to grind that with a, the slight radius on it, and then sharpen it accordingly. And I'm going to mark these with the awl. What I did was I took my pencil on the inside because I wanted to get the switches as far away from the knobs as I could, I mean within reason. And so I took my pencil as a gauge and basically had little switches in here and figured out, what the farthest in the cavity I could do these and still get the body of the switch in. And I took that gauge, which is the finger on my pencil, and just moved it up here, struck a radius or an arc along the edge of the body, and then I set the switches until I found a place that seemed functional with the switches, or the knobs, excuse me. Anyway, so I'm coming up off of that line that I drew there a little bit because I was just going to the edge of the shaft. So I'm estimating the center close enough. And I'm using a drill big enough that I should be able to see how thick my top is right here. At the same time, it should be about 1/4 because I don't know if I filmed any of this. And it was dangerous. But I had a big router bit in my, and you can see it's a little rough in there. I had a big router bit, a bullnose kind of bit in there, and set up a kind of like a pin router. I had a big a block of wood that I kind of rounded over on top in my drill press vise, clamped down, and then with the router bit above it, right? Well, I'm looking at the camera and I can't make my fingers touch. So and I left myself I started out bigger, but I milled down to about 1/4 inch thickness here, which turned out to be a little thicker than I think. But by the time you get that well into that, then that's probably about what I had, because I got a fat 3/16 left there right now. So I should have around the same thickness down here, but that's what I'm going to punch these in, and then that'll tell me. And then the drill bit's not bigger than the web on this butterfly bit, which will, gosh, I don't know why this is so hard to figure out. Anyway, the web on the butterfly bit, so that when I put that in the hole, it's not going to randomly spin around and make a bigger hole than I need. I had a feeling this was a dull bit. but it's duller than even I could have imagined, and it's smoking. Time to get a new bit, or a different bit. I had them laying right here in my pile of rubble. Much sharper. My high-tech depth gauge here. Take a toothpick and just kind of snap off the end so it's somewhat square. And then I will poke it into the hole here. And just put my finger on the other side. Hold it in position. That's kind of hard to do with it being that long. So I've got it flush to the inside of the hole with my other finger, and I'm just going to mark it here, and then I'll be able to look at it or measure it and see how long it is. So it's over 1/4 of an inch. Actually, it's right at 1/4 inch. So I have room. That's the depth on my shaft on the switch. So that's 3/8. So, gosh, well, I don't have it. Theoretically, I could just push that. I wouldn't have to recess this, but I don't want to have quite that much of the toggles sticking through there. So I am going to go ahead and do that. Recess these a little bit. You can smell my brain smoking. That, not digging that. I may save myself all that trouble and just punch that hole out and pop them in there, because by the time I put a well in there, these things are so close together that's probably not going to be great. So I'm going to reverse myself on that. I'm going to go ahead and put a 1/4 inch drill bit in the drill press and punch these holes in and call that done. So now we have decided to go ahead and do the wells in there. I wasn't happy with the idea of sticking up quite as far, so took a 3/4 inch bit. I ground a radius. I did some tests, so you can see these right here were the last ones. There was a little round. This is a shallower test over here on this side, but the ones right here are the more round on there. So, and that's about where they laid out on the guitar, that close together. So this will get sanded all out, and that little line in the middle will probably get sanded down a little bit there as well. Plus the guitar body is radiused right there, so you're going to have a deeper side here and a shallower side here. So they might not be enough out of there for it to even be that big of a consideration. But here we go. You can see the way that's that's drilling there that you got the well, but it's deep on the high side of the radius and not the low side. So just do those so they match, and sand them out, and things will be just dandy. Just eyeballing those to make sure they're the same size. Speaking of eyeballs, it looks like a pair of eyeballs and nostrils. I hope they don't look like that with switches in them. Alright, so I went ahead and punched these out to, I think the bit measured 230, and my caliper's on the other side now. So, and it was just a fuzz small, and actually I just spent 30 seconds, if that, filing that out a little bit. I chose to grab the rat tail file rather than getting my ream out, just, you know. So, I literally just spent, and I'm kind of circling the whole, not staying in one spot. And so that's actually almost there. So there we go. So I sanded this out a little bit with some 80. Just try to get down in the holes and do a little bit of that, and then I just sanded across them just to take the corners down a little bit. And I might do that some more on these out here. Actually, they look a little abrupt. And then there again, I'm already down to final grit on this top. I'll have to I'll have to sand that out again back to where we were going. And so these have nuts that go on both sides, so I'll get these down to where they're as low as they can possibly be. And then these washers have a little, you won't be able to see that, but there's a groove in the shaft here, and then there's a little matching piece hanging off the inside of the washer. So that what happens is there's a tab on this washer. Then if you put it face down, that bites into the wood when you tighten it up, and that keeps the switch from spinning because the switch is held by that little tab on the inside of the washer. I'm not going to put it on that way right now because I don't want to put a dent in the wood yet. But when this gets all said and done, well, I'll just do that real quick here and see what it gives me. If I put the lock washer on here and one nut and see how much of it I've got exposed on the face here. Okay, so that nut is all the way down. Now when I put it in, it'll tell me. I'm just going to look here. I've got about the same thickness left over on these as I do on the larger holes there. Probably going to have to take a little more out of the inside just so that I have enough room to get that nut on there. Right now I've got the washer and I don't have enough left to get a full full depth of the nut thickness caught on there. So A little more work to do there. But that's definitely the direction I needed to go in. So now that I've got all the holes in the body drilled, with the exception of this piece of bar brass that I have coming for the back, that it's going to be a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by whatever the length there needs to be, and I'll wrap that channel in, and then round the ends of the bars to match. Anyway, get all those holes drilled in that. At this point, my plan is to do a wash coat of shellac on everything and then grain fill. The main reason is I want to use a dark filler, and I don't want to stain the wood. Any place you've got end grain showing, if you just hit that with a dark filler or a stain for that matter, it's going to soak into the end grain and be darker than anywhere else. So the old Gibson guitars and pretty much anybody else that was building back in the early days, they sealed their guitars before they stained them, and they didn't stain. They floated the color in their lacquer. One of the early guys was Fender that actually, saturated their bodies in a yellow stain before anything else, but that was strictly a base coat for their sunburst, and they put their colors on top of that. But they would do that stain, then they would do a sealer over that, and then they would do the sunburst. And if the body was going to get another color, it was just more expedient for them in the Fender factory to just stain all the bodies anyway. But Gibson, and I'm sure Epiphone and anybody else that was doing the mahogany bodies with the red mahogany or cherry filler, whatever they called it, they sealed the bodies. Now, I'm sorry, I take that back. The filler they put on the way it was, I think. I'd have to research that again. It's been so long since I read all that stuff. But they definitely floated their color in their lacquers. All this new craze with the stain in bodies all came out of, I think, probably PRS, because they do some really nice looking stain on their maple tops. And so I think that was probably kind of what got people thinking about doing stains rather than floating the color in the lacquer. Another huge rabbit trail. Good night.